铁到后经十大里入境小区。至于前往北京的旅客请注意，并期间您的全国手机用品在甲飞机接受海关检查。对于用在飞机上的未经海关检查的行李物品，将由海关人员处理。将与行李的海关手续交到北京办理。感谢您乘坐中国南方航空其班机，下次旅途再会。Ladies and gentlemen, we have just landed at Beijing Xiamen Airport. The ground temperature is 20 degrees centigrade. For indicating that fasten entry the plane has come to complete itself. According to the custom regulations of People Republic of China, please stay on hand with you through custom. The luggage locked on board will be handed you by the captain. Formalities for take baggage can be completed at Beijing. Your boarding card can be obtained in the front ground staff. Please wait in the terminal boarding and flight is coach. Welcome to Xiamen. Thank you for understanding your today and read local board. See you again. Thank you and goodbye.
at all levels of grain reserves.
这些措施使我国粮食生产得到了恢复性的增长，农民收入得到了明显提高，国家对粮食的宏观调控能力进一步增强。
All these measurements have led to a growth resume in China's grain production and an increase of farmers' income. Thereby, the central government's macro control ability to grain market is further strengthened.
但是，在我国粮食储备和流通领域还存在着一些问题，需要我们进一步研究解决。
However, there are still many.
98. The grain product, grain production with decline every year. So the average output is about 450 million tons. And the main species in China is paddy rice, wheat, corn, and soybean. The grain consumer. The average grain consumption in China is about.
That's why we need some temporary sheds to keep the surplus, the paddy, or temporarily, and we move the paddy in from the temporary shed as soon as possible to the rice point. And another point, I want to decide analytical laboratory of the Ministry of Agriculture in solving problems of insects, pests, and insecticide. As you may know, the NDCP is responsible for the post-harvest activities and agriculture before post-harvest stage. All the activities are responsible for the Ministry of Agriculture. That's why sometimes we cooperate each other to control the pest. And let me explain the handling grains of different stages. So drying production facility. So as I explained you before, most of the people living in the rural area are not wealthy enough to use the modern dryer or sophisticated equipment to dry their paddy. That's why normally most of the people living in the rural area use the sun dry method. In purchasing depots, this is very important for Myanmar farmers to sell their rice to our purchasing depots by using these means of transport. And from the purchasing depots to the warehouse or rice mill, we normally use trucks, and in some areas we use rail, with train. That's why some of the transport undertaken independently by the private sector. In terms of trucks, we use the private trucks to transport our paddy from the purchasing depots to the warehouse or rice mill. And long-haul transport is coordinated by the public sector, because to use train, its government is the sole authority of railway. That's why we have to cooperate with the Ministry of Rail Transportation. And let me move to the efficient storage system to enhance the food security. As I explained in the very first of my presentation, NDCP is responsible for keeping the National Reserve as well as the ASEAN Reserve. From 2000 and 2001, National Reserve paddy has been kept in the grain storage warehouse deployed in the various areas, mainly in the central part of Myanmar. We have, according to our constitution, we have 7 divisions and 7 states. And 5 divisions are located in the central part of Myanmar, and that's why we normally has been kept in our National Reserve paddy and rice in the major division, especially in the central part of Myanmar. And ASEAN Reserve has been kept in Yangon area with efficient and proper storage. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Karim. That was a very extensive presentation from no less than the Deputy General Manager of the Myanmar Agricultural Produce Trading. And at this point in time, I'd like to open the discussion for questions, queries for Mr. Wu. Would like to have the honor to place the first question. Yes, please.
Yes, it was quite a detailed one and very useful to us. There are only two questions which I had in mind. One, is it confined activity only to paddy, rice, or other grains also, which your organization this is going to be? And second, you said the farmers keep about 90% of product with them.
In the beans and rice exporting methods, only concentrated on the rice and paddy. And in the year 2003, the policy of the rice trading has been changed again. The government no longer get involved in rice and paddy, including export and purchasing directly from the farmers. So the objective of the new rice trading policy is to play for the private sector to play a major role in rice trading. Rice trading means including internally and externally. That's why MAPD is no longer getting involved in purchasing and exporting rice, beans and pulses from farmers and as well. Another thing is as I explained in my presentation, we have about 90% of paddy and rice are in hands of farmers and private traders. About 10% of the rice and paddy we normally keep in our warehouses. And the private sector, they have a small rice mill attached with the small warehouses. It's only about not bigger than 200 metric tons warehouses in small rice mill in various places in Myanmar. Most of the rice are kept in those small warehouses is variously spread in Myanmar. And another thing is farmers want to store their paddy and rice in their home, in their household, because there are two reasons for keeping the paddies and rice in their hands. One is for growing next season. Normally, Myanmar people leave some amount of paddy to grow next year. We normally use grain for the next season to grow. It's very rare. Only a few number of farmers use seeds. That's why they grow for them. They keep some paddy to grow for the next season. And another thing is traditionally Myanmar people want to store the paddy or rice in their hand to ensure the safe to prevent the starvation or other unforeseen measures.
Household food security.
Yeah. And another thing is Myanmar always produce about 27 million metric tons. So I described in my paper in detail the role of my organization. My organization had got involved in purchasing rice from farmers since 1948. And in 1962, the socialist era, at that time, my organization take the old responsible to distribute the rice for all people living in Myanmar. And after in 1989, the policy has been a little bit changed. So my organization only take responsible for the distribution of rice to the target groups. We call target groups mean the government employees, for army personnel and their families, and for hospital, and for the university students as well. And by the year 2003, so my organization has the policy of the new rice trading policy has been emerged in my country, and my organization no longer get involved in rice trading. So government allows the private sector plays a major role in purchasing or exporting rice. The only responsibility for my organization is to maintain the national reserve and ASEAN reserve. This is one responsibility. And another responsibility is to train the farmers and traders to
Probably I'll ask one question to Mr. Wu. You made mention about the ASEAN rice reserve, which your country manages. So what kind of food storage facilities do you use for the maintenance and management of the ASEAN food reserve?
So we have a special branch for maintenance of the storing ASEAN reserve. In Yangon, it's close nearby the port. We have a very big direct handling unit. This can cover about 25,000 metric tons of rice in that area alone. So we have to keep the ASEAN reserve about 14,000 metric tons. So in that area, we have special task force for keeping quality control and other process for the ASEAN reserve. It's close to the Yangon port. It's nearby the Yangon port. So we have special mission and special task force for the ASEAN reserve. And in the special warehouses, this is the best warehouse in my country.
And these are all funded by ASEAN?
Not funded by ASEAN, but funded by my government. It's according to the agreement of ASEAN food security.
So what if the situation comes wherein there's need to draw down from the ASEAN reserve? How will the food commodities be transported?
It's a decision made by the ASEAN head office. So ASEAN has a food security, I think food security team for the ASEAN, all member countries. If they need some requirement from Myanmar, we transfer all rice to, we are ready to transfer about 14,000 metric tons of rice to the country they need. But frankly saying, we have no information or experience in supplying the ASEAN reserve to the other countries.
Thank you.
Maybe I can add to it. Actually, AFMA organized a meeting for ASEAN on this rice reserve thing a few years back in Bangkok. So I was involved in that. We took a subcontract from FAO to organize this meeting, and this question was raised there. Actually, this stock they keep for ASEAN region in many countries. Now they have the quota system. For instance, Myanmar keeps 14,000. I think Thailand keeps 20 or 25,000. But it's only on paper actually. Because they have never used this stock. Never so far. After they established this reserve about 15 or 20 years ago, they have never used this stock. So it's just a sort of agreement in paper. Perhaps they didn't need to use this, but they have to show that okay, in case of emergency, they are ready to distribute wherever it is. So that is one thing. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, since you are downsizing your operation, I mean MAPT's operation, you were heavily involved in rice export before because no private sector was allowed to export, only MAPT could export. Now,
but for the farmers, their storage losses is more than 2%, up to about 5%. So in my paper, I described 2% is focused on our own warehouses, but for the rural areas and rural farmers, it's more than 2%, about 5%.
Any more questions? Yes, please.
Asian reserve. That's the last 10 years. I think we used about Asian reserve. How what is the mechanism?
They have these clauses in their articles saying that they won't give you free, they will lend you in kind. Okay, if some country has natural disaster, then they can ask from the reserve from other country, that will be in kind. So, and I think they have this clause there. Perhaps the country which asks for this much of quantity, they have to bear the transport, because it will be only one way. They can even pay back purchasing in the same country from where they borrowed. So it is in the paper, but in practice they have never done so. And apart from this ASEAN reserve, they have established another reserve called East Asia Rice Reserve, EARR. They just started about 6 months ago the project, which is funded mainly by Japan.
Well, if there is none, we'd like to thank Mr. Wu for the presentation of Myanmar. To follow will be the presentation of India. And for the presentation of India, we will have a joint presentation because we have two country papers that will be presented this afternoon. We will have this afternoon Mr. Shilandra Nigang, I hope I pronounced that correctly, the Executive Director of the Food Corporation of India, for the first presentation. And I'm corrected, they will be presenting jointly. The other presentation will be from Mr. Shobi, the Managing Director of the Central Warehousing Corporation, and we'd like to invite them in the presidential table for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Wu.
No, he is not using it. I will check with him. He is using it.
We are the one who act as an arm of the government for providing food security. And broadly speaking, I'll confine myself because I expect that you stack it up, you unstack the stack and then load it onto the trucks, and from trucks you go to the railway shedding, you put it on the wagons, and the same exercise is repeated at the receiving end. And sometimes, thanks to the railways, we have to interchange midway as well. Now, those loading and unloading operations, as we call them, is done manually with the help of a hook. It's a 1.5 foot rod with a hook in it, so the labor just pulls it through. And that causes what you call, in our terminology or the technology, bleeding of the back. No, we call it bleeding. Spillage is a different thing. Now, this bleeding is inevitable, both inside the godown as well as when we are transporting it. That also accounts for just 0.48% losses. So our total losses are less than 1%. I'll put it this way. But when you talk about the volume, it could be much more than yours.
And in giving a loan against that, the farmer does not have to physically sell it. Whereas the receipt can be presented against which the loan can be given. The warehouse's role, of course, has increased. This I have mentioned warehouse receipt because I am coming to next aspect. Because in India, the forward trading was banned for quite a long time. The commodity futures have been opened now. The commodity futures trading has started taking place, in which the warehouse receipt will play a greater role. And this will be instrument of financing to migration through banks. provide traders an efficient system of strong supply chain management at relatively low cost, narrowing the gap between the price received by the farmers and the price paid by the consumer, flexibility to postpone the sale of agri-produce and hedge stocks to get rid of distressed sale at unremunerative prices, and efficient capital management. The futures market, because it's very exciting, the development has taken place, because we feel that once we have a modern grain concentration of India, suggestion is to have first tea break, then probably we can ask the gentleman for questions, and then we'll issue for some more questions. Is that fine with you? Okay, then we'll have a tea break, please. 10 minutes, and then we'll issue the questions for the two gentlemen.
After tea break. So if you want to continue, you can continue for 3 minutes.
If you know questions,
After looking at
appreciation to Mr. Sanchal, Executive Director of AFMA, because without him, I would not have been in this conference. You see, our government is very strict in attendance to international conferences because of the present fiscal crisis. And it was decided by our agency that we're not sending any representative to this corporation. But due to the persistence of Mr. Sanchal, he decided that a delegate from the Philippines should be brought in for this conference in China. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of this conference, the State Administration of Grain of China, the Dalian Beijing Corporation, as well as technical staff for the full cooperation to this activity. My topic this morning will be a far departure from the main conference theme, which is food grain technology improvement. But before embarking on my specific topic, I'd like to give you a general insight on the general state of food grain technology in the Philippines. Food grain storage is the principal function of the National Food Authority, which was created by Presidential Decree number 4 in September 21, 1974, or rather 1972. It's very much like the State Administration of Grain of China, the FAO Food Corporation, and the MCI of India. In the 1970s, the National Food Authority was tasked with the importation of grain. And because of that function, we were really earning from that specific function of distributing grain. The management of the National Food Authority then deemed that we should have strategically located warehouses in most of the big provinces, as well as those that are in the islands. Because if I may tell you, the Philippines is 7,100 islands. And just like in Nepal, there will be difficulty in distributing food commodities when there is a crisis. So out of our income from wheat grain importation, we established more than 300 warehouses located in strategic production areas, so that in faraway islands of Batanes, which is nearer Taiwan than the mainland island of Luzon, we have one big warehouse there, wherein at least twice a year we ship rice by small ships. So the principal mode of distributing is still overland using trucks and the railway system, but to the island provinces we use bottoms. The private sector has its own network of warehouses, and they are more in number than the government. We practice quality control standards, and the National Food Authority has one specific department that undertakes this, which is the Technical Research and Extension Directorate. And in every province, there is a quality control officer. So we have warehouses that are 50,000 bags in capacity, 100,000 bags, and we have a national grain center in Dalian City, which is about 100 kilometers from Manila. We have one big bulk storage in Mindanao, which is a southern island, and that's called the Southern Grains Philippines, which is capable of storing grains at the same time milling paddy rice. We also have a similar facility in the northern Philippines, in the mainland island of Luzon, which is called the Northern Philippines Grains Complex in Isabela. So, as in the other countries, our farmers still use bags for their own management of their own inventory, and it's still the principal mode of stocking up rice, even in the warehouses. Now, this morning, I will discuss the activities that are going on in our country as far as financing inventory by the farmer so that they can have liquidity or additional funds to do their production activities. In this conference, I've been asked several times what Quedancor means. Quedancor stands for the Quedan and Rural Credit Guarantee Corporation. It is a government agency that was once attached to the Department of Agriculture, but by virtue of an executive order this August 2004, we were transferred to the Office of the President because we were tasked to help in the government's effort to generate 6 million jobs by virtue of helping agriculture and the fisheries sectors. But one other question, and just this morning, again, I was asked by Mr. Wang what Quedancor is all about. It provides credit, financing, and guarantee the farmers and other agricultural participants so that they can have. Quedan was derived from the Spanish word quedar, which means to deposit or leave behind a commodity for safekeeping in a warehouse. And eventually, the person who left behind or deposited the stocks is given a warehouse receipt in bartering for other goods or selling this. But it came to a point that some of the holders of the Quedan tampered with this instrument. They would sell their stocks, and in the process, there is distrust in the system. So at one point in time, this practice was stopped. But in the 1970s, when the Philippines was moving from a situation of deficit to self-sufficiency, the Quedan system got resurrected. And during this era, that the marked increase in the commodity production paved the way for the funding capacity of the warehouse businessman using the old system of Quedan. So what we did then was to reinstitutionalize, to resurrect the acceptability of the Quedancor as a negotiable instrument. In particular, using the system, the traders were able to raise operating capital to purchase the produce from the farmers, so they had additional liquidity. And incidentally, it is also during the 1970s that the predecessor of Quedancor was established by virtue of LOI, Letter Instruction 696, wherein 95 million was earmarked by the government to provide additional operating capital of the rice millers and traders to be able for them to produce, to procure from the farmers. So I've discussed this slide in part. I'm hastening my discussion because I have only 1 hour to discuss. And on this, on the left side of the slide is the actual photograph of a warehouse receipt, which is what we call Quedancor. So by using this warehouse receipt, the holder of the Quedancor or the warehouse receipt can go to a bank and secure bridge financing loan from the bank, because this particular receipt proves to the bank that he has in storage a certain number of palay deposit. So the bank would normally give a loan to the holder of the Quedancor up to 85% of the value of the pledged stocks. When we started in 1978, it was only 70%, but now it's 85%. And the president of the Nepal Food Corporation was asking before I spoke up, how much is the computation of the loan. We also have a price support system which is established by the National Foods Authority, which is similar to the MSP, minimum support price of India. So based on the prevailing support price, the number of bags times the equivalent, the prevailing support price of 10 pesos is the basis for the computation of the loan. Now you will probably ask what happens to the 15%. The 15% is the risk of the bank. And Quedancor issues a coverage on 85% exposure of the bank, which is basically saying to the bank that if the farmer who pledges his Quedancor or warehouse receipt to the bank will not be able to pay the loan that he secured from the private bank, it is Quedancor that will pay the 85%. And then afterwards, we go against the farmer or his association or the private borrower. And I'd also like to clarify that we only pay the bank if at the maturity of the loan, the stocks are not present, meaning it's not in the warehouse. But if the stocks are in the warehouse, the first option is to first sell the palay stocks or the food grain stocks. And whatever is the proceeds, it is applied to the loan. And whatever is the difference, we pay the bank. And then we go against the borrower. So using that scheme, we were able to restore the confidence of the banking sector in the Quedancor. So for its first year, the Quedancor Guarantee Fund Board facilitated only 8.2 million credit. This is quite small because at that time the exchange rate was only about 7 pesos. But the system posted the highest accomplishment of 2 billion pesos guaranteed loans in 1988, benefiting 312,279 borrowers. With the success of the program in 1980, additional food commodities were placed under Quedancor Guarantee. So, corn was included, peanut, mongo, and even allied commodities like fishes and other food commodities. Then, again, our good friend from Nepal asked me, can the farmer sell his produce while it is stored in the warehouse? We have perfected the system wherein he can, for the duration that the loan is in effect, and our guarantee is covering that loan from the bank. He has to execute a food trust receipt, which is a document that says he has that pledged stocks in the warehouse and that he can sell the produce that are deposited in that warehouse. And upon monetizing the pledged stocks, he is required to pay the bank. Otherwise, he can be sued for estafa. So in 1985, 17,000 kedans in different denominations of 100 to 1,000 kabans were pledged, covering 9.4 million palay, 7.8 million kabans of corn, 140,000 kabans of milled rice, 180,000 kabans of unshelled peanuts, and 5,000 kabans of soybean. Again, whenever I start formulating programs using the flagship program of Quedan inventory financing. So, in the course of time, we improved the system, and thus this system became known as the Agri-Aqua Inventory Management Program. So this is still basically the old program, but we expanded the commodities, as you will note in the lower portion of the slide. So these are the objectives of the reformulated Agri-Aqua Inventory Program, or what we call in short the AIM program. And on your slide are the significant program features, which I partly discussed. So 85% of the outstanding loan is the guarantee coverage on the program. And then you will ask us, how do we earn money? We slap 3% guarantee fee on the loan amount per annum, which is not refundable. And we observe strictly a leveraging ratio of 5 times the amount of our guarantee exposure. To the banks, this is important because we cannot stretch our leveraging, otherwise it's too risky. So in this slide, probably what is most important is the interest rate. What is the interest rate? It is at the discretion of the lending bank. But why is it that it's still attractive to the borrowers? It is attractive to the borrowers because under the program, the central bank offers a discounting line for the participants in this program. So they would normally get a lower interest rate. When we started the program in 1978, we were accorded a special rate of 10% rediscounting by the central bank, when the prevailing rate then was about 25% to 30%. So you'll probably ask, what is the rediscounting rate now? Before I checked, it's 7%, when the prevailing rate is from 20 to 26%. So you could see that it is very attractive to the private banks. On top of that, the Philippine government, under a particular law, requires that a certain percentage of the bank resources should be devoted to agricultural and fisheries. So 25% of their portfolio must be devoted to agricultural and fishery activities. And by participating in the aid program, it's an alternative compliance. Whatever they load out under this program qualifies as a compliance to this law. So the loan term is 1-year credit line, but it differs according to the commodities. So it's on your screen and it's on your paper. So I will not deal with it in detail. So how did the program perform? You can see the graph that the highest was in between 1987 and 1988. And we posted the performance of 2 billion. You can see that it's going down, and I can explain this. It's going down, but despite the fact that it's going down, the cumulative loan performance is 21 billion, benefiting about 3.25 small farmers, million farmers, fisherfolk, and other rural entrepreneurs. The performance is going down because when we spun off from the Quedancor Guarantee Fund Board, our predecessor, to what is now Quedancor, by virtue of the Public Act 7393, which was passed by the Philippine Congress, we were mandated to trigger the inflow of investments and credit to the countryside to be able to generate employment, increase farm incomes, and generate livelihood. So when the present management of Quedancor took over in 2001, under the leadership of our President and Chief Executive Officer, Nelson C. Bellaflor, we decided to change the formula of our operation. Whereas before, we were doing guarantee operation at 70% of our total loan performance and 30% direct lending. We reversed the formula. So we're now doing 30% guarantee and 70% direct lending. So why did we do this? In 1997, the Philippines was not spared from the Asian financial crisis. So the government suffered fiscal limitations. So that the government was not infusing budgetary support to Quedancor. And in the process, there was reluctance on the part of the bank to accept our guarantee, knowing that our guarantee fund base is thinning out. So with a very modest guarantee fund base, we decided that we shift to small ticket accounts, supporting the small farmers. So the result is the performance of the inventory program dropped to as low as 168 million in 2003. But we're happy because we are helping more farmers at this point in time. And we're also happier because we proved the acceptability of the warehouse receipt as a loan instrument. We're happier because most of our clients in the 1970s who were in banks will not give any loan to them are now the prime clients of the major banks in the Philippines. They're given premium benefits and concessions. The next diagram